Mother-in-law had her friend try to seduce me as a loyalty test, so I exposed everything and went no contact. Now she's showing up uninvited and telling the family I'm isolating her daughter. I'm a 35-year-old guy married to my wife, Emma, who's 32. We've been together for 5 years now, and for the most part, it's been great. Emma's amazing, smart, kind, and funny. But her mom, Linda, has always been a pain in the ass. From the moment we got serious, she's had some kind of issue with me. At first, I thought it was just the typical nobody is good enough for my daughter stuff, but over time, it became clear that Linda had a whole different level of crazy entitlement going on. The first major thing that tipped me off was when Emma and I went on vacation 2 years ago. We'd saved up for months to take a week-long trip to Hawaii. When we came back, we walked into our house and found that the living room had been completely redecorated. New curtains, new furniture arrangements, some weird abstract art piece on the wall, everything. Linda had a spare key for emergencies, and apparently, she decided that redecorating counted as one. She acted like she'd done us this huge favor, saying things like, "I just thought your space needed a woman's touch." Emma was annoyed but let it slide, and I didn't push it because I didn't want to start drama. Then, when Emma was pregnant with our son, Linda insisted that we consult her on the baby's name. She even made a list of suggestions and said it was only fair since she was going to be the grandmother. I told her point blank that it wasn't happening, and she sulked for weeks. That should have been the end of it, but she kept slipping in helpful comments like, "Oh, I suppose you'll just pick some trendy name that doesn't mean anything." But the loyalty test was when she really went off the deep end. A few months ago, Linda invited us over for dinner. It was pretty standard, her making some passive-aggressive comments about my job in IT, telling Emma she looked tired, she didn't, and complaining about how nobody in the family ever appreciates her. Toward the end of the night, she introduced us to her friend Cheryl. Cheryl was a lot. She was overly friendly, almost clingy, and spent most of the night trying to talk to me. She asked a ton of personal questions and laughed way too hard at my dumb jokes. Even Emma noticed it and joked on the way home. "Looks like Cheryl's got a crush on you." At first, I thought it was just weird and awkward, but a few days later, Cheryl sent me a text. She said Linda had given her my number and that she had a work opportunity she wanted to discuss. That didn't sit right with me. For one, I didn't give her my number, so Linda had obviously passed it along. And two, what kind of work opportunity comes out of a dinner with your mother-in-law's clingy friend? Still, I decided to meet her, mostly to figure out what the hell was going on. I didn't tell Emma right away because I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing. When I showed up at the coffee shop, Cheryl was already there, smiling like we were old friends. She started with small talk, but it didn't take long for her to get to the point. She leaned in and said, "Linda's really worried about you. She thinks Emma takes you for granted. You're such a great guy. You deserve someone who really appreciates you." It was so obvious what she was doing. I asked her flat out, "What are you trying to say here?" She didn't even try to deny it. She just smiled and said, "I'm just saying if you ever need someone to talk to, or more, you've got my number." I couldn't believe it. Linda had set this whole thing up, probably hoping I'd take the bait so she could swoop in and tell Emma, "See? I told you he wasn't good enough for you." I didn't say much to Cheryl. I just stood up, told her this conversation was over, and walked out. When I got home, I told Emma everything. At first, she didn't believe me. Not because she thought I'd lie, but because even for Linda, this was a whole new level of crazy. I showed her the texts from Cheryl, and after I explained everything, Emma was furious. "Are you kidding me?" she said. "She actually thought this would work? What the hell is wrong with her?" "She's been trying to get rid of me since day one," I said. This was just the next step. Emma didn't waste any time. She called Linda right then and there. When Linda picked up, Emma went off. "What the hell is wrong with you, Mom? You gave Cheryl his number? You told her to hit on my husband." Linda tried to play dumb. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice all innocent. "Don't lie to me," Emma snapped. Cheryl told him everything. "She said you told her I didn't appreciate him. Why would you do something like that?" And that's when Linda's mask slipped. She didn't even try to deny it. "I was trying to protect you," she said, like she was some kind of hero. "You don't see the way he looks at other women. I wanted to make sure he was loyal." Emma was shaking with anger. "You didn't do this for me. You did this because you can't stand that I'm happy without you controlling everything." Linda started yelling, saying she had every right to look out for her daughter, and that I was probably hiding something anyway. That was it for Emma. She hung up and blocked her on the spot. We didn't talk to Linda for weeks after that. Emma needed space, and honestly, so did I. But Linda wasn't done yet. She started telling the rest of the family her version of events, claiming I'd misunderstood Cheryl and that Emma was being brainwashed by me. She even called Emma's aunt to say she was worried about her, like I was some kind of manipulative monster. The worst part was some people believed her. We had to spend a lot of time explaining to people what really happened, and even then, some of them just wanted to stay out of it. But most of them took our side, especially after I showed them the texts from Cheryl. A month later, Linda tried to make peace by suggesting we all go to family counseling. At first, Emma thought Linda might actually be ready to apologize, but then we found out Linda had framed the whole thing as a way for me to admit my mistakes and for her to get the family back on track. We shut that down immediately. Linda didn't take it well. She threw a tantrum, saying we were excluding her and that she just wanted to fix things. When that didn't work, she tried to hijack our anniversary party. We'd planned a small dinner with close friends to celebrate 5 years together. But a week before, we found out Linda had invited half the family to her house for a surprise anniversary party. She even invited some of her friends, including Cheryl. When we told her we weren't coming, she acted like we were the villains. "I did this for you," she said. "You can't even appreciate a nice gesture?" "It's not a nice gesture if it's all about you," Emma told her. "Cancel the party or don't." "We're not going." Linda canceled the party, but not before telling everyone it was because we were too selfish to compromise. After the failed party stunt, Linda moved to her next tactic, trash-talking us to anyone who would listen. She told relatives that I was controlling Emma, keeping her away from her family, and brainwashing her into hating her own mother. It was the same crap she'd pulled after the Cheryl incident, just turned up a notch. Emma's cousin Sarah called us one night to give us a heads up. "Just so you know, Linda's telling everyone that you're not letting Emma see her family anymore," she said. "She's making it sound like you're isolating her or something." "Of course she is," Emma said, rolling her eyes. "She can't admit she's the problem, so she's trying to make him the villain." Sarah was one of the few people who completely had our backs. She knew how Linda operated and didn't buy into her victim act. "Don't worry," she said. "I told her she's full of it. But you might want to get ahead of this before it spreads." So we did. We started reaching out to other family members to explain what had been going on. We didn't go into too much detail, but we told them enough to make it clear that Linda wasn't being truthful. Some people were supportive and said they'd figured as much. Apparently, Linda had a history of stirring up drama. Others stayed neutral, saying they didn't want to get involved. That was frustrating, but we decided not to waste energy on people who couldn't see through her nonsense. Still, Linda's smear campaign took a toll. Emma was upset, not just because of what her mom was saying, but because some people actually believed her. "I feel like I'm losing my family," she said one night. "All because she can't stand that I'm happy." "You're not losing anyone who really matters," I told her. "The people who know you and care about you aren't going to take her side." That seemed to help, but I could tell it still hurt. And honestly, it pissed me off. Linda wasn't just trying to mess with me anymore. She was actively trying to ruin Emma's relationships with her family. A few weeks later, Linda tried to apologize. She called Emma and said she wanted to make amends, but it didn't take long for her true motives to come out. "I just think it's time we all sat down and worked through this," she said. "Maybe we could do a family therapy session." Emma was skeptical. "Are you actually ready to take responsibility for what you've done? Or is this just another way for you to avoid owning up to it?" Linda hesitated for a moment, then said, "I think it would be good for all of us to get on the same page. Clear the air." That was all Emma needed to hear. "No, Mom, we're not doing this. If you can't admit what you've done and actually apologize, there's nothing to talk about." Linda started crying, saying she just wanted her family back and that we were being unfair. But Emma didn't budge. "You don't get to play the victim here," she said. "You caused this. If you really want to fix it, you need to start by admitting that." After that call, Linda went radio silent for a while. We thought maybe she'd finally backed off, but of course, that didn't last. A couple of months later, she tried to pull another stunt. Emma and I were hosting Thanksgiving at our house for the first time. We'd invited a small group, just a few close relatives and friends. Linda wasn't on the guest list, but somehow, she found out about it anyway. On Thanksgiving morning, she showed up uninvited, carrying a casserole dish like nothing was wrong. "Happy Thanksgiving," she said, all smiles, like she hadn't just spent months trashing us to the rest of the family. Emma was stunned. "What are you doing here?" "I came to spend the holiday with my family," Linda said, brushing past her into the house. "I brought green bean casserole." I stepped in at that point. Linda, you weren't invited. You need to leave. She looked at me like I'd just insulted her entire existence. I'm Emma's mother. I don't need an invitation to spend Thanksgiving with my own daughter. Yes, you do, Emma said. You can't just show up here after everything you've done and act like nothing happened. Linda started with the waterworks again, saying she was just trying to make peace and that we were being cruel for turning her away. But Emma wasn't having it. This isn't about making peace, Mom. It's about you not respecting our boundaries. You need to leave. When Linda realized we weren't going to let her stay, she switched tactics. She put down the casserole dish and said, "Fine. I'll leave. But don't expect me to keep trying to fix this if you're just going to shut me out." Emma opened the door and gestured for her to go. "Nobody asked you to fix anything. Goodbye, Mom." Linda stormed out, muttering under her breath about how ungrateful we were. We spent the rest of Thanksgiving with the people who actually wanted to be there, and honestly, it was one of the best holidays we've ever had. After Thanksgiving, we went back to living our lives, trying to focus on the positive and move past Linda's nonsense. But of course, she wasn't done yet. A few weeks later, she sent Emma a long email. It was the usual mix of guilt-tripping and playing the victim, claiming she was heartbroken that her own daughter had turned against her and that I was poisoning Emma's mind. She even said something like, "One day, when you have children of your own, you'll understand how painful it is to be pushed out of their lives." Emma didn't even reply. "I'm done," she said, deleting the email without a second thought. She's never going to change, so why waste my energy? But Linda wasn't just trying to guilt-trip Emma. She started meddling in other ways, too. One of her more ridiculous stunts happened right before Christmas. She sent a package to our house, a massive box covered in festive wrapping paper. Inside was a collection of baby clothes, toys, and a handwritten note that said, "For the day when you finally decide to give me the grandchild I deserve." Emma was furious. "She knows we're not even sure if we want more kids," she said, throwing the note in the trash. "This is just her way of trying to control us." I took the box to a donation center the next day. If Linda thought we were going to let her dictate our lives, she was sorely mistaken. But the final straw came a few months later when Linda tried to manipulate Emma's job situation. Emma works as a graphic designer, and she'd recently started a new job at a small firm. Apparently, Linda had been bragging about Emma's new position to her friends, spinning some story about how she'd helped Emma land the job, which of course wasn't true. One of Linda's friends owned a business and reached out to Emma, asking if she'd consider freelancing for them on the side. It seemed harmless at first, but when Emma looked into it, she realized the company was a total mess, terrible reviews, unpaid invoices, and all kinds of shady practices. When Emma politely declined, Linda flipped out. She called Emma, accusing her of embarrassing her in front of her friends and saying she should have at least given them a chance. "I don't owe your friends anything," Emma shot back. "And if you're embarrassed, that's on you, not me." Linda tried to keep arguing, but Emma hung up. "I'm so sick of her acting like my life is just an extension of hers," she said. "She needs to learn that she doesn't get to control me, or us." After that, we decided enough was enough. Emma blocked her on everything: phone, email, social media. We even changed the locks on our house, just in case Linda still had a spare key floating around somewhere. It felt extreme, but at that point we didn't care. We needed to protect our peace. The fallout wasn't easy. Linda doubled down on her smear campaign, telling anyone who'd listen that we were cruel and ungrateful. Some family members cut ties with her entirely after hearing what she'd done, while others tried to stay neutral. A few still believed her, but at this point, we'd made peace with the fact that we couldn't control other people's opinions. Now, months later, things are finally starting to settle. Emma and I are stronger than ever, and our son is thriving. Linda's still out there, probably plotting her next scheme, but we're done letting her nonsense take up space in our lives. If she ever decides to genuinely apologize and change, maybe we'll consider letting her back in. Until then, we're focused on the people who actually bring joy and positivity into our lives. It's been a long road, but honestly, cutting Linda out was the best decision we've ever made.